YouTube. So I don't have to wait for it to process like an hour long. When I've recorded classes here with you guys and then ended the meeting and it's been an hour long recording, I sit here for like 20 minutes while it renders that file. So that's why we're doing we go to YouTube, because it's recording in real time and it'll be available to Caitlin without me having to sit here for 20 minutes after class letting it render and then uploading it to okay, so we're in Zoom. That's that. Again, more, you got a lot of things, and then record if you need it. And this is where you set up your things. Okay, so you'll figure it out. We'll play with it until you got it. All right, so let's go through Moodle, and I'll just show you where we're at in the course now. I'm kind of updating. It feels like we've kind of hit the midterm, and now we're racing toward the end. This class is coming along nicely. I think we've designed it well to keep you moving, but not be overwhelming. So, creating and refining content, the end of September here through the middle of October. We had our studio day. You've uploaded a completed rundown lead story. That's all good. And so, yeah, I blocked out basically the whole month of October for writing, shooting, editing, knowing that, when you guys have 10 and 12 stories, it's quite a bit of work to write them all. And, especially when you do it to completion, when you're getting all the fine details nailed down. So that's where we're at. So this week was really about pulling it all together. We're a little behind, you're still producing, but, once you're done, there's kind of this process where you go through and double check everything. Okay, you open your rundown script by script and you review and make sure that the copy is good and the technical cues are good and that scripts match the slugs, and then you do the same with your video. Does that are those, and you just kind of make the whole package complete with the idea that you're going to hand a pile of scripts and a set of videos to a production team, and you're going to go out on the anchor desk. And we have to have everything that you have, in place where we understand it so that we can serve it live as you go through your show. So that's kind of the idea of pulling it all together, finalizing, organizing, checking. We're not quite there yet. We need to finish everything, but that's fine. So we'll look at scripting VOSATs today here in a second. But what I've done is November 1st. I'm putting a deadline for you to have all your scripts written. What's that? Ideally in Easy News, yeah. I mean, that's when they're really done. And written technical cues, like your finished work for the scripting part of this, I think if I don't give it a deadline, it tends to drag on. So that's about 10 days, 12 days from now. So I know, you're going to be, but it puts some onus on you to get your interviews done. And you can always rewrite a story later if something new changes or you get an interview that you weren't able to get prior. But use this as a target, okay? So I'm going to ask you, and I'll show you in once everything's in Easy News, you can tell it to export the whole show as a PDF, and you can send me that PDF, and I'll be able to see all your scripts. And then I can go over them, help you refine the copy, check for the technical cues, okay? But I'm just gonna make that a deadline. So that's Sunday night at midnight, like 12 days from now, okay? And then it didn't take in Moodle for some reason, but I put the same thing here for your video. So Sunday, November 8th at midnight, you should have all your video edited, timed, edited, ready for submission. I don't know why Moodle didn't take it. I wrote it twice this afternoon in here, just to give you guys the structure of a deadline, and two, the info. So I'll put your entire show from Easy News, a PDF. You should be completely finished on paper, all copy, stories, and correct technical cues included, so that the script package is air ready, that is ready for live production. Okay, so that's the scripting one. And then I had one that talked about how to do the video. And basically the big thing with the video is the way you name the files, okay? So you want, every file should be Seiji 1 and then the slug of the story. So 1 would be your tease, right? And then let's say you have a welcome intro as number 2, but there's no video. So then your next video file would be Seiji 2, and then whatever the story slug is that has video, which is going to be, what's your lead story?
The NHL.
NHL. Okay, and then same thing, Seiji 3. So these numbers are just the order of the video, but then the slug so that we know, right? And then the video server and the director can go, okay, I need his 3rd story NBA, and the video server person is looking, going, yep, I got number 3 NBA, and we can have confidence in a live environment that we're running the right video. What this does, your name and these numbers allows us to just, there's hundreds of files on that video server. When we name them all precisely like this, they'll all stack together and in order. So if you label them properly, then they're all going to sit in the video server window properly, and we can just serve them in as needed. Okay, so that's basically what I was writing on Moodle that for some reason didn't save a couple times, was get all your video files, and when they're done. You've timed them and you've edited them. So you've finished your script. You've read the script with like a timer of some kind and said, okay, this paragraph is 8 seconds, and so I'm going to cut 2 shots that illustrate that content till the 8-second mark. Then the next paragraph is another 8 seconds, but it's about a different subject. I'm going to cut 2 shots that cover that. And so the video is moving with your script. That's timing it. And then, of course, you edit it in Premiere and then output it as your final file. Individual files, you would ask me that, I think. It's not all one, right? It's each story has its own video file. Okay? So we're getting down to crunch time here, but it is also still 3 weeks, and I think you guys have a good base, but it's time to get the work done, which I think the big holdup is the field production. You can't really do your lead story package until you go shoot it. So you'll be a little bit under the gun to at least get it written by the end of next weekend. If you shoot it next week, that's fine, and you're just gonna have to turn around and get the scripts written.
I think it's this weekend.
Oh, is it this week? Yeah, so then you have 10 days.
Isn't this weekend the 24th?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll have a good week to go through your footage and write from it.
Yeah.
And let me know, we can work on that next week. Like how do I do a package, right? How do I pick the best sound bite? Once you have some of that material, I can help you figure out what to do and how to put it together. So anyway, I'm trying to leave time for us to get these done, but I think if the scripts are all done, and then a week later, the videos are all done, they're all cut, timed right perfectly to those finished scripts, your shows will really pop. They'll be very much in sync when the audience is listening to you speak and seeing the proper image at the proper time. It's a pretty cool effect.
How do you create graphics, like an OTS graphic?
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is we will build those in Photoshop, and you can put them in after we tape. I can ask Dave to show me how we would do it live, but the graphic system in there is the weakest part of that whole system. It's so clunky that the few times that I've tried to work with it, I really didn't like it, and I kind of gave up.
I mean, really, have maybe 2.
Yeah, so if you guys have any skill in Photoshop, you can do it. You could also pull one down off of Google. Off of Google, right?
Mine would literally just be an image. It'd just be 2 images. I wouldn't like edit anything on it.
All right, let's see what happens if we say NHL OTS in Google Images. It doesn't know what OTS is.
But I wouldn't probably have an OTS or an HL. I only want 2 OTS.
So here you go. Well,
yeah,
any of these could be, that, and then we would just put NHL on it. That's basically all OTSs are. Is there's some, they're usually a picture with a slug. Right, here's.
Yeah, but I don't want more than 2.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to be, I've already got a lot and it moves quick. I just want to jump into the highlights. I don't want to have an OTS the whole time.
You know, and the OTS just makes the story, the intro, more interesting to the viewer. But, you know, that's typically a picture with some text on it is all you need for an OTS graphic. So it's something that we could make very quickly. And like I said, if we just did them in Photoshop, you can lay them in. I'm asking, we're going to do final tapings. So I'll walk you through that here real quick, just so you know how the rest of the semester's meant to go here. So your scripting deadline is the 1st of November. Your video deadline is the 8th of November. Assuming that all gets in, then we get to spend, you now have a full show in the system, and we can work on anchoring. You know, I can spend two days with you guys, you know, working, and you guys were good on camera, you know, so there may not be that much, but you know, I'll coach you as much as I can. Then we'll rehearse the next week. We'll do, you know, full dress rehearsal run-throughs, if you will. You can be in casual dress here because we'll just have fun with it. And all of this allows you time to fine-tune anything that's not working for you, right? And then we'll do final tapings, basically 3. So each day, one of you can run through your show like 2 or 3 times in whatever your finished outfit is for the year. You may want to be in a jacket and tie. You may want to be Renfield in full makeup. You know, Kaylin will be wearing whatever. But you'll have like 3 full takes of the show in this final tapings. And then what you'll find is like some shows you'll nail the first block, but the second block will be a little rough. And then the next time you'll take the first block for granted and kind of stumble through it, but nail the second block. And what I want you to be able to do is take these tapings and pick your best one. And then any place you have a stumble or a miscue, find a clean take from one of the others and edit it in. So then the final show that you would show, you know, to your family or to a potential employer is like perfect, okay? And it's in that process when you're getting rid of any bad takes in your best show and replacing them with your backup takes. And that's just on a story-by-story basis, right? Most of your best show will be clean. There's always going to be 1 or 2 places where you bobbled something, but you'll just replace it with a clean take from others. That's where you can also layer in OTSs, right? So if we don't do it live in the taping, we'll shoot it so that there's room, and then you can put the OTS in post, and I can help you make them if you need to, okay? So we do our final tapings, basically 1 day for each of you to have 2 or 3 run-throughs while the rest of us help. We go to break, and your final production, basically, or your final assignment is to edit so that you have a fully clean show. And like I said, I would start with, you'll know out of those 3 that we do in the final tape, the 3 run-throughs, which one was your best. Or we'll tell you, dude, that's the one. Use that one as your base, and then just fix it as needed from the others. But you may have things that you like, you know, you may want to mix and match. It's really up to you to make that final production. So we go to break, and then we come back, and they've cut off a week of the semester. This was originally out through December 13th, but they've removed that week. So we're basically done when we go to Thanksgiving break, except for this finals week. So I'm just giving you that break time to edit your final piece.
You just upload like an MP4.
Yeah, just put it together. You know, it'll be in a Premiere timeline, right? And so you'll just have your whole show from start to finish, but you'll have layered in graphics or, you know, fixed audio or, you know, mixed and matched your different takes to have the strongest of each story, however deep you want to go. But my first goal would be what I don't want is a great show that's marred because you were tremendous except you bobbled the lead story. Well, all right, good. We'll take the lead story from one of the other takes and put it in, and now your best show is strong all the way through, right? And we can, like I said, you can add any graphics or video. But yeah, then you can cook it out as one file, Sports with Seiji. And again, that'll be something you could show potentially to to audition for shows, or you always need a resume tape if you're looking for on-air work. even if it's digital on air, they want to see what you look and sound like on camera. This will give you something that's going to be really strong in that regard. And they can say, oh, wow, did you do all that? Yeah, I did. I produced, wrote, edited. All of this is my work, which says a lot too, right? You're not just an anchor. You are a producer who can produce content behind the scenes. Okay, so I think, this looks really good to me. I think we're in good shape here. We got plenty of time basically to cover every base, but it really will be, remember these dates, target those, and that'll push you to get across the finish line here on the creation. Okay, so the last thing I kind of wanted to do today is let's look at VOSATs in particular. They're a little bit more elaborate, and you can think of packages this way too, because with readers, there's no video, right? It's just you. VO, not technically difficult, right? Take VO back on camera. Okay, easy. VOSATs are more technically involved, and the reason is a couple of different things. And what I like about VOSATs, they're really like the workhorse of studio presented, anchor presented news programming. Endless readers and VOs get boring. It's one voice and they're not very in-depth. VOSATs have this different feel where you get the mix of voices. You get the anchor, but then someone sound on tape. So we know that you did some journalism as viewers. We know you went out and interviewed people. It gives us a sense that you went out and gathered information. You have that sought in there from someone else. So basically, most of the stories that we ended up doing were VOSATs or packages. Readers and VOs were considered kind of filler, just because they're not that interesting. But the VOSATs and the packages are the heart of our content, because primarily you get these other voices in here and this deeper reporting. So when we're scripting one, and I love the way this looks exactly how I would have scripted it. So she's using caps for the prompter. I found this online. But our cue, Sage, you're been on cam, one shot or OTS, whatever, but you're on camera here. And then take VO, and that, these in Easy News, when we put this script cue over here, it also appears in the prompter. But this lady's doing what I do, putting it in the prompter so the anchor knows when he's under video. And then you have to time this part. So this becomes one of the timing units. As the editor, you would now read this, like with that stopwatch, and you would know that this is 20 seconds of copy. And she doesn't have it here, but take SOT, and then we would put a :20. And that would tell us that the SOT is 20 seconds after the start of the video. And take SOT, fine, that's the anchor. But then this is key, TRT. That's total running time of the soundbite. So we immediately know, okay, we got 8 seconds to change the audio or get the super in and out. It's really important for us as a technical crew to know how long is this soundbite. If it's 28 seconds, now we got plenty of time. But if it's 6 seconds, we know we gotta be really fast. What's happening here at the take SOT is the audio person is probably bringing your mic down and the tape sound up, because we don't want anchor chatter. And normally in a professional setting with an 8-second soundbite, there's not going to be crosstalk. But during packages, during a 2-minute package, you don't want those anchor mics up, because anything they say will go out over the package. So we would isolate the audio manually. And that's what these cues are telling us. Take SOT tells the audio person, take your mic down and bring the video server audio up. And then he knows at 8 seconds, he's got to reverse it, right? Out cue. This little quoted thing, this looks exactly how I would do it. It's eerie how right this looks to me. But you put the last line of the soundbite in quotes. Last 10 words or so, and it's called the out cue. So then your studio crew has information that we've got an 8-second soundbite, but rather than having to time it, we just have to listen. And when we hear him say, well, your chances of anything coming out of that are slim to none. This looks familiar. You know, the moment we hear that, right? Audio person, director, like, because the director needs to know if we're coming out to video or on camera. If it's on camera, I need to hit a director button here, and that out cue, that the fact that you have written out the last line of the soundbite for us, is the thing that we all rely on. We wait till we hear that phrase. And so if anything's scripted wrong, like if the TRT doesn't match the out cue, that'll screw people up, but that will usually depend on the out cue. And then your graphics, you know, in news, when you have a soundbite, you put the person's name and their title, you know, so there's a name super that comes up when the person's speaking, right? And a lot of times you write that in the copy. So former legal advisor Christopher Jenks says there's little room for negotiation. And then what happens? We hear him say there's little room for negotiation, or chance there's something up. So you can come out of the SOT, you know, at the end of the TRT and the out cue, you can come back out to more video, or you can come out to anchor. That's up to you as a producer and an editor to decide. I like coming out to video. You know, I mean, we see plenty of the anchor up here and throughout the show. You know, it's a visual medium. If you have video to go with the copy, you might as well edit it. And then, you know, if you think that this is 10 seconds of video and you read it, and you'll learn pretty quickly, you know, that basically each line of your copy is about 10 seconds, is about 2 seconds. And so if you have 6 lines, it's going to be about 12 seconds. You edit your video for an extra 10. Just let the last shot run. So that's called pad. So if you stumble in here or whatever, it doesn't just go to black on air, right? That video lasts and gives the crew time to get back out to you guys. Okay, so that's the only thing missing here is the time of this block. But otherwise, you can follow this. I really like how they've done this. It looks just like I would have done it. And I would just have take SOT, and then you can just do colon, and then whatever this time is. So I would read this out loud with like a stopwatch on my phone or something. You know, to here, I would time this much and it would be Amanda Knox. And then here, whatever this time would be, I would have a shot, maybe a 2-shot of Jenks talking with the reporter into his full head shot, right? So you edit to your copy by time. And if it all goes well, you know, if this is well timed, it's seamless. You read this live on the air and the video is edited perfectly, and then the moment you hit negotiation, we hear that SOT, and then your team is sharp and brings you back out on camera right at the end of the SOT, and it all goes really smoothly. Like I said, these are kind of the workhorses of a good dynamic show. And so you want to get good at it and get comfortable. But the big thing is the TRT and the out cue. Those have to be there for us as a technical crew. And I would like the time. I mean, I guess we can bring the SOT up whenever, but basically, this is all one video file, so you need to know this time, how long it's going to take you to read it on the air anyway. You might as well just include that, okay? So that'll be scripting your VOSOTs, technically. And then I've got another found this PowerPoint slide from another professor. So he talks just a little bit about creating the story. Just as with a VO, you want to write to what you're seeing. So whatever video you have, try and write your script to sync up with it. So you look at your video before you write. Because the information you may want to give may not be there visually, but you might be able to basically tell the same story, but along with the pictures that you actually have available. A lot of times in a newsroom, you're getting all this footage on a satellite feed. So we would take the ABC News or the NBC News global raw news feed, and in an hour they would just send us footage and sound bites from all over the world, but in a rough format, right? Someone's just slapped some B-roll and some interviews, and we would have to look at it and turn it into a finished piece. And that's where you might write something that you don't have a shot for. But if you look at your footage first, you can write based on what you do have to work with, okay? So you write words to be read along with the visuals, and then this is the key thing, and this is true in packages, you kind of write into your soundbite. The last line before the soundbite should kind of set it up and flow with it. So, it's not always just the mayor says, but that is, that's not a bad one to get a handle on. And the mayor said things are getting better. And you don't want the mayor then to come up and go, things are getting better, right? So if the mayor says things are getting better, you want to rephrase it. The mayor said things are improving. And then the mayor comes up and says things are getting better and then elaborates on that. You don't want a verbatim match, right? Sounds like you didn't, you kind of rewrite. Witnesses said nothing could be done. Witness saw police are still urging drivers to use caution. Police saw. So you kind of set up things like that. And it's an art form. There is no, do it all this way all the time. It's your judgment. Not every SOT has to be set up with a line, but in practice in the beginning, I think that's the place to start. So that's why I like this look at things. And so packages, for technical scripting, packages basically end up the same way. So the way the package script is going to work is instead of, you'll have anchor intro, anchor on cam, right? One shot. Blah, 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 the anchor's on cam, and then it's take package. And everyone knows what that means, right? Everyone knows, okay, we got 2 minutes, it's entirely pre-produced, we basically get a breather. Because the audio person only has, he's gonna mute the studio mics, bring up the video server audio, and now he can just sit tight for 2 minutes. Key thing, just like the SOTs, what you have in your script is the TRT of the package and the out cue on the package, okay? You don't put the package script in the teleprompter because you don't need it, okay? Easy News has a function where it'll store it on the director's side, but in this case, the difference is take package, we don't need all of this because it's already in there. So the only things we need are the TRT packages are typically 1:30, but there's always 1:35 or whatever. And your out cue, like with the reporter, we would just say standard out cue. And that meant in Pocatello for Channel 6 News, I'm John Young, or I'm John Young in Pocatello for KPVI News. That's the standard out cue. If there's anything other than that, put it in quotes, and it might be, if I ended on a soundbite, I might say mayor, and then his quote, things are getting better.
So how would we pre-record for packages then? Because I know what you're talking about, but.
And then, let me just finish here, and then we would script technically what happens after the package. Out to cam would be anchor, probably, anchor one shot. But if I ended, the reason I would end the package on a soundbite is if I were doing what they call a reporter wraparound. So the anchor intro, and then he says, Seiji Wood is live at Holt Arena with more. Seiji, and then you would have your own on-camera intro from Holt, doing a live shot, and then your package, and then you wouldn't end with a standard out cue because we're going to come back to you. And that's where the out cue becomes so critical. So the time of the package and the out cue help us all know exactly when to come back to you or whatever scripted out to the anchor. Okay, so so intro, package, tag. is the 3 parts. And then again, if it's a reporter wraparound, you have an anchor intro, toss to the reporter who does his own intro, reporter package, reporter tag, anchor tag. So it's kind of like a 5-leg piece of it. But technically, those are the only challenging things to script. And what everyone does is they forget the TRT or the OutQ or both. They just say take SOT and then we have no information. So the script's not complete until all your VOSOTs and packages also have TRT and OutQs included, as well as instructions to what's coming up. So sorry, Seiji, you were asking.
So how would we pre-record everything? Because I'm not gonna intro myself to take it to myself, to come back to myself. Does that make sense? I would rather intro and say on camera, I interviewed such and such on the latest about fall sports here at ISU. And then, usually at that point it goes to a pre-recording. You have B-roll of like sports or whatever, and then like a voiceover. And then that's just what I'm thinking in my mind. And then you have the VOSOT and so on and so forth. But how does that work with what we have? Like, do you want us to pre-record these things? If so,
Packages,
how
yeah,
do we do that?
packages should be a mix of you narrating with sound bites. That's a package.
So essentially, we're just doing a VO on camera at that moment.
Well, no, a package would be an on-camera intro,
Yeah.
and then your last line would be, I had a chance to visit the volleyball team this week to find out more.
Yes.
And then you'd have a 2-minute package of B-roll and sound bites with you narrating over the B-roll.
That's what I'm saying. How do we get that? How do we do that?
So how do we record your narration?
Yes.
There's an audio booth that's killer here. And you'll just take like an audio recorder or a camera in there and you'll just read your script into the mic in that nice quiet audio room. And then you have a voice track that you can use to build your package around.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, if I'm being completely honest, at this time, I think I would rather have more time scripting and putting video clips together than rehearsing the actual tape. Because just hearing what you're saying, like thinking in my mind, I'm kind of getting stressed out because I'm realizing I gotta, 1, jump on the interviews, which is fine. But 2, after I jump on the interviews, I gotta script everything out. And then after I script everything out, I gotta go separately to do an audio recording of everything.
Well,
So
just
I
your
have
just
that.
for your packages, but yes.
But yeah, like right now, currently I have 2 scripted packages,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then after all that, then I gotta get that all done. Essentially in like 10 days, I guess what I'm saying is
the editing, you have 2+ weeks to get fully edited,
for the videos.
which the packages, I would consider if you've written your package within 10 days, you have another week then to record your voice and edit it together and put it together. And that would be if we stick to these deadlines firm. But I think I'm putting these deadlines in order to raise the stress level, because otherwise what'll happen is we'll still be scrambling with only like a week left. And I just need to emphasize to you guys right now that this is the time to be cracking, getting your interviews, getting your footage, writing your scripts, first version, before you shoot, and then revising based on what you got in the field. But we shouldn't be really coasting right now, or we're setting ourselves up for scrambling later.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it's unreasonable, but I hear what you're saying, and if you haven't done news packages, I think 1 package is really good for you to at least get your experience on. 2, I would say if the second one is kind of overwhelming, we could turn it into a VOSOT. Or a series of VOSOT, or we could simplify it so that it's not weighing you down. So it really, but I think once you do one package, you'll find that a second one's not nearly as difficult. But the big thing is the field reporting. You have to go get the material. And that's where we're kind of hung up, but it's not critical yet. You know, and I know you're working on your NHL and NBA. It's probably taking longer than you want it to.
Yeah.
But you know, you are working. You are working on the content that you have available to you, which is good. But you know, it's amazing how this can drag out and getting to the finish line. It's like the finish line keeps moving as we get closer to needing to cross it. So that's why I'm just, you know, trying to create some urgency and make sure that you realize how much work there really is to do, and the fact that we can't really move forward into the studio until it's all done. But I'll help you, Seiji. But I think the big thing is, you know, the heart of packages are the interviews. So let's say, what's your big package?
So my big package is probably just fall sports at ISU.
Okay, so let's base that around 2 or 3 interviews that you need to do, a coach and 2 players.
Right now I only have 2 players in mind, and hopefully I can get a coach. I might be able to get an assistant coach.
That's fine.
But
I think you need the coach's perspective, right? Because that's who's affected. It's the coaches and the players. And they have different challenges, but the coaches are the ones who have to figure out how to deal with this, right? Because the players just have to show up. But what the players can tell you is, yeah, it's so freaking weird, you know? I'm used to a full season right now, and it's like preseason has gone on for 8 months, you know? It's, whereas the coach can tell you like, oh yeah, we don't know 1 week from the next what our schedule's going to be, if we're going to have enough players. So there's interesting stories on both sides. But basically, let's say you interview a coach for 5 minutes on camera on Zoom. You interview 2 players from different teams, different programs. Because if it's fall sports, you can't just do volleyball. Right? You need, I'd say you want to be cover at least 2 teams. I mean, you got to do some reporting. You got to talk to the people involved and find out what their story is. And then, so now you've got, let's say you've got 3 5-minute interviews. And you just go through those and you know, the raw information, like the story they tell is your story. That's the copy you're going to write. And then you're looking for that one section of the interview where they kind of got animated and became more, you know, they were just, oh man, it's just been so weird. You know, I'm so sick of this. Anything that's like emotional or first person, that becomes your soundbite. And then you just write your copy to get to that soundbite, you know. So players say it's been really difficult, da 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 da, and then that soundbite hits. It's just so weird this year. I hate having to deal with all of this. And it's not just the players who are struggling. It's also the coaches. They say scheduling has been an issue, the uncertainty of who's going to show up, how to protect the kids. It all makes for a very difficult season. And then the coach comes up and talks about his experience in a soundbite about how difficult it's been. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So
Yeah.
can I use the same interviewees in my second package as well?
Yes, you might want to do a little bit longer interviews in that case, maybe go 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like, because I got fall sports at ISU, and then I got to do the upcoming spring, kind of like a kicker, like what it's going to look like, how it's going to play out.
And you know, I think you probably want a fresh voice for that second story. So maybe do one interview that's kind of exclusive to that with the athletic director. But you could also bring in people we've heard from before on a new topic. But what I'm saying is get those interviews done, because that then opens the door. You now have all the information. You can start writing. You can start picking your sound bites. You can start creating your stories because you know what your sound bites are. You're going to write in and out of those sound bites, you know, so that it's impactful. So that, you know, and then the other thing in a package, so interviews is number 1. Get those, and you're like 90% of the way done. And then B-roll. You just need some good footage of them practicing. You know, ideally, it's not just wallpaper from last season. If you're talking about how they're getting through this season, you go to a packet, you go to the, you know, and so if you were field reporting, what you would do is you would show up at the volleyball practice, and your assignment editor or you ahead of time would have called and and talked to the coach and said, we've gotten permission, we're gonna be there with a camera and a mic. Can we get 5 minutes with you and one of the players? And he'll say, yeah, you know what, let's do that right before, so be there at, practice is at 4, I want you there at 3:45. Or no, I don't want to do the interviews till after practice, and practice ends at 5:30. And so then you would go, okay, 5:30, I only need, 20 minutes of B-roll to shoot B-roll, so I'm gonna get there about 5 o'clock. I'll shoot B-roll till 5:30, I'll shoot 2 interviews, so you can get everything in an hour for a good package. It's hard to explain until you've done it. But it's that idea of get those interviews, work around getting those. So whether, when can I do an interview with you? Before the tour, during the tour, or after the tour? And do you mind if I talk to some of your guests while we're there? And then I always felt better and more relaxed if I got my interviews out of the way first, because they're the key. That's where you learn the story. You're interviewing, you're asking questions. What do you think of this tour? They tell you what it's like to be on the tour. Now you've got copy for your story. Now you've got the story plus your soundbite. The B-roll is so much easier, right? You just shoot people walking around, oohing and ahhing, the different locations, sequencing, wide shot, medium shot, tight shot, wide shot, medium, tight shot. Same thing with you, wide, medium, tight on volleyball, take 3 or 4 different sequences, you've got plenty of B-roll.
I'm planning on just getting my B-roll from sports information, hopefully.
Yeah, and are they going to the practices?
The thing is, I'm just gonna get previous things that they've shot in the past, because I don't think anybody's allowed outside of players and coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, football and most sports that were quarantined just got out of quarantine, so.
Well, and I know that, part of your journalism, part of the story right now is these programs are starting to have athletes get sick and going into quarantine and missing 2 weeks and stuff. So Zoom is a great way, but I would just encourage you, get your interviews done as soon as possible, because then you have material to work with. And then the B-roll, yes, would be, ideally you would be able to go and shoot your own. If you can't, we'll find it. But get those interviews, Seiji.
It's probably easier to write for when you have the material too.
Oh, because you know exactly what your soundbite is, so you paraphrase the rest of the discussion you had with them, but then your great soundbite, right? You know how long it is. You can script the whole thing once you have the interview in the can. So, Seiji, that's going to be your best stress reliever is try and get those interviews recorded as soon as possible. And that'll make it a lot easier for you. If you need help, if like the highlight packages and the national stuff you're working with is going too slowly, let's find time to work on it together. Because I can probably show you how to do it faster. It sounds like you spend a lot of time just wrestling with, finding your highlights, downloading it, technical problem, they won't load into Premiere. Suddenly you've lost 2 hours of valuable work time and really not accomplished much. I think we've got enough to do in the field to these national things should be pretty easy to pull down right in edit. Yeah. Big thing today is, remember with a VOSite, you gotta have that team, you gotta time your soundbite, and you gotta write down the last 5 or 10 words for an out cue, so that you can, when you're scripting, you can include that in the script.
So the YouTube account or YouTube downloader was called Y2 something.
Yeah, Y2 Mate.
A Y2 Mate.
Yeah. Y2mate.com. And then again, it'll open up a second window in the browser, and it's just bullshit. Just close all that stuff about you need to update Flash, and it's all crap.
Yeah.
And what I realized is I was looking on that second window where's my download button? It's not in that window. Just close that window and it'll bring you back to your first window, and there's a download button once it's ready. So, okay, that's basically about an hour. Any questions at this point? You kind of, you know what's happening in Easy News. Our rundown's basically in there. You'll have to fine tune it, but the bulk of what you need is in there. You're starting to fill your individual scripts. So we're just in this. You gotta get the material written, researched or interviewed or recorded, and then written, and then put it easy. Get those interviews, that's the big thing. Anyone you have to interview. And then you're meeting Meldrum, or did you already do that?
I'm meeting him on Thursday.
Okay. And are you gonna go up to his office, or you're gonna do it with Zoom?
I'm gonna go up to his office.
Okay, I think that's great. But I would say, if you feel like it's better, you know, I know it's easier, but if if it's safer and just feels more right to just do it by Zoom, that's totally fine.
Yeah. I don't like using Zoom.
No, and I think going up to his office, one, you get the field production experience, and you're gonna have to set up your shots, set up the mic, get beside the camera, interview him,
Oh, and I wanna see the stuff.
and then
he's
see
got
the
in
stuff
his
he's got,
office.
yeah. Yeah, and share the coolest stuff with your audience. That's when you field report, you see way more than you're gonna be able to get into a minute-long story or a 2-minute-long story. So you just, what was the coolest, and share that with your audience. So Seiji, let me know if you have any problems like lining people up, but I think most people will talk to you. And you could certainly start with sports information. I'll send you Steve Shack's number. Or you used to work there, right? Didn't you do work with them?
Not like officially, but I helped out quite a bit.
Okay.
I
So-
don't really need his stuff, I just need his B-roll. I'm
Gotcha.
thinking of interviewing a football player, volleyball player, and probably the volleyball assistant coach. And then
I think that's a great start, and then if you can knock out two more people, then now you have plenty of material to do your local stuff.
We'll see.
But yeah, start with those 3, get those out as soon as possible. I think you'll feel like you're gaining traction. Groovy. All right, well, I'll see you Thursday, and we'll maybe get back into easy news, or I can help you with some writing, or, it's really just whatever needs to be done at the moment.